For the public, Miller and Kazan have come to represent the deep divisions of the McCarthy era. Miller, who wrestled in his work with his own moral failings, has emerged as a pillar of virtue. His actions before the committee have even taken on an aura of saintliness over the years. Kazan occupies the opposite end of the spectrum. It doesn't matter that he followed On the Waterfront with East of Eden and Splendor in the Grass, that on Broadway he directed Tea and Sympathy and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, that later in life he wrote several best-selling novels. He is defined almost entirely by a single decision made 50 years ago.
Let's go back to the House Un-American Activities Committee. It was 1952. How did you decide to cooperate and name names?
Well, I thought it over very carefully. I went one way and swung the other way, and it was a very hard decision to make. But I thought, in the first place, I differ from some of my friends. I think the Congress has an absolute right to investigate anything like that, any thing like the Communist Party in this country. I don't agree, for example, with the phrase witch hunt, which is so popular. I think it's baloney. I think it suggests that there are no people that are being hunted. They are there. They were there in the State Department. They were there in the unions.
You were one?
I was a communist for a year and a half.
I don't think either Kazan or Miller will escape the shadow and the implications of those years, or indeed the impact of the 1930s on them. They were what shaped these people. The interesting thing is, I think the works escape it. Today, if there's a production of The Crucible, the person writing program notes has to explain what the House Un-American Activities Committee was, who on earth Senator McCarthy was. So those works have escaped the past. The people, no, never. But I don't think we do escape the past.
The House Un-American Activities Committee carried on for many years after Arthur Miller won his appeal. As the 50s drew to a close, it turned its investigative powers to the civil rights movement, and then in the 1960s to the anti-war demonstrators. Only in the aftermath of Watergate were the last vestiges of HUAC abolished. But by then, the committee's power to destroy careers had long since waned. In 1960, Otto Preminger and Kirk Douglas broke the blacklist when they gave writer Dalton Trumbo, one of the original Hollywood 10, screen credit on Exodus and Spartacus, respectively. Over the next decade, those who could reclaimed their careers. For many, however, there was nothing to go back to. Hollywood had passed them by.
The legacy of the committee is a legacy of all the things that didn't happen. And it's very, very hard to really take an accounting of things that didn't happen. Books that weren't written, plays that weren't performed or written, organizations that weren't established, questions that didn't come up. And I think it's those silences and those lost options that are the real legacy of the committee.
In 1970, Dalton Trumbo was awarded the Laurel Award, the Writers Guild's highest honor. In his acceptance speech, he offered these words: "When you who are in your 40s or younger look back with curiosity on that dark time, it will do no good to search for villains or heroes, or saints or devils, because there were none. There were only victims. Some suffered less than others, some grew, and some diminished. But in the final tally, we were all victims, because almost without exception, each of us felt compelled to say things he did not want to say, to do things he did not want to deliver and receive wounds he truly did not want to exchange. That is why none of us, right, left, or center, emerged from that long nightmare without sin."